Welcome into the latest edition of the Stealin' with the Boys podcast. I am your host, Junnie Riddle, here along with my boys,
Jawuan Williams
and Coach Campbell.
Fellas, week one is finally here. We're all here at the house. Just got done watching an electric opening night game between the Ravens and the Chiefs. Ravens thought they pulled a little bit of a Houdini out of their hat there at the very end. Got outplayed the entire game. Isaiah Likely out of bounds by really just his big toe. And that's the end of the game. They were about to go for two and try and go for the win after getting outplayed the entire game. So electric game to open up the NFL season. But now we are turning our attention to our big game. Opening game in Atlanta, Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff, 12 Central. Steelers take on the Falcons. Arthur Smith going back to face the team that just fired him. Will he get some revenge? So we're going to go through the entire schedule on this show and give our official record predictions for the Pittsburgh Steelers, just like we did last year. But first, we've got to break down this game first because it only makes sense. We can't do our schedule prediction and then break it down because then you're already going to know what we think. So we're going to talk about this game. Jawuan and I are going. Now, Trey, have you decided whether you're going to go to the game or not?
I will not be going.
Boo.
I'll be watching. I'll be looking for y'all.
Boo.
Man, it was just too last minute.
My man forgot the chairs.
Oh,
My man, my man forgot to get his ticket.
here we go.
And my man forgot to get his tires rotated, and that's why he had to get new tires. Either way, Trey is not going to be there, but me and Jawuan are going to be down there for week one, tailgating with Jawuan's family.
Yeah.
Super excited to see this awesome new stadium. I know you two both have been, but I have not been. Ready to take advantage of these prices, and also just to get a glimpse of what this team looks like. I don't know about you all, but I'm really happy that we didn't do episodes during the preseason like we did last year because I really felt like that got our hopes up and we kind of fell into the honey trap that is preseason and overreacting to the things that we saw. With what we saw this preseason, two pretty bad games, needless to say, and then one pretty solid game by the starters. Number one, what do you expect to see this Sunday? And what's the number one thing that you're looking out for before we get into breaking down this matchup against the Falcons?
Well, this preseason, I'm actually glad that we lost because we had a perfect preseason last year. We went undefeated, and you see how that went. Other than that, I'm really excited for the season. I'm excited to see just see the boys come out and play because it's been a lot of chatter going on, you know, around Russell Wilson, around the O-line, around new defense. But one thing I'm looking for this season, well, not this season, this game, the play between our O-line and their D-line. Because our O-line is coming in young. You know, we got some key injuries on the O-line. So how would they protect Russ during this first game? That's really the only one I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I'm super excited too. The season's finally here. It feels so good to finally get to see some football. But my matchup for this game, I think I just want to see Arthur Smith's offense. Honestly, like how he runs an offense with our talent that we have. I want to see how the play action. I'm super excited to see play action. But Arthur Smith going back to the Falcons and, you know, playing against them, I'm hoping he pulls some stuff out and the offense runs smoothly. We haven't seen a good offense in 3 years, so I have high hopes. High hopes.
I think it's been a little bit longer than 3 years. I really think the last time this offense was good, I think 2020 was a bit of a mirage, as we all came to find out. But I think the last time this offense was truly good was back in 2018 before the Big Ben elbow injury. And what's fascinating to me is kind of like how we overreacted in a positive way to the preseason last year when Kenny Pickett went 5 for 5 on his drives, had a perfect passer rating. I mean, we were thinking Super Bowl. We were thinking Kenny Pickett, you know, potentially being the breakout quarterback of last year, and that just was completely not the case. Flat out, what I am looking for, number one, is very similar to what you all are talking about, but I think the opposite happened in this preseason that happened last preseason. I think last preseason, Matt Canada knew he was on the hot seat. Kenny Pickett knew he wanted to get a hot start and get the fans excited. And I felt like they kind of showed their cards in the preseason to kind of get a glimpse of what this offense was truly going to look like. I felt like they were running plays that they were going to run on Sundays when it mattered. And I think the difference between this preseason is I think they're trying to keep those cards to their chest. I think they're more confident in their offense. I think they're more confident in their offensive line. I think after last year with what Najee and Jalen did down the stretch, that they actually have an identity on offense. And with this Arthur Smith system and the way that Matt Canada was, I think he was like 30th or 31st in the usage of play action, Arthur Smith is the complete opposite. He's top 5, if not, he might have been 1. I don't have the stats in front of me, but with all that being said, I think that they're very confident with what they're doing, and I think that's why they played their cards close to their chest and kept things very vanilla in the preseason. Hence, kind of why things didn't really pop off the page. So I'm kind of eager and excited to see what this offense looks like as well. I'm eager to see how this team matches up. I really think this is a good matchup. Jawuan and I were talking. I said I love Week 1 because it seems they always put teams that are really close together, matching up against one another. And I think, where the Falcons are as a team and where we are as a team, I just think it's ultimately going to be a really, really good matchup with a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. So that is what I'm looking forward to. So let's kind of get into, this matchup in general. We can talk about how much we want to see the offense as well. Personally, what I am honing in on, and this has been something that we've talked about all offseason with the Brandon Ayuk situation, going and getting a number 2 wide receiver. I'm looking at these receivers because I really like Atlanta's secondary. I mean, you look at A.J. Terrell. I know he didn't have that great of a season last year, but he's still a very talented corner. They already had Jesse Bates. He really broke out with this team since moving from Cincinnati to Atlanta last year. I think he had 6 interceptions. And then you go out and get Justin Simmons, the guy that's been waiting all offseason to get picked up. Somebody finally goes out and pays him the bag. I think that this secondary for Atlanta is really, really good, and I think it's the strength of their defense, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the receivers for the Pittsburgh Steelers match up, knowing that there's a huge drop-off from George Pickens to a guy like Van Jefferson.
I agree with that, and going on the other side of things, I'm excited to see our secondary, like our revamped secondary. I mean, we have Joey Porter back and Minka, but getting a guy like Dante Jackson and can't remember the safety we got, Deshaun Elliott. So I'm really excited to see our secondary as well. But their secondary, they are stacked. We'll see. Justin Simmons just got there, a week ago maybe. So we'll see how he does back there. But, yeah, we're all worried about our receiving core, semi-worried about our receiving core and the talent we have behind George Pickens. But we'll see. We'll see how they match up and see how Arthur Smith schemes them open.
I know the main topic, especially on social media, has been like our receiving core. I think that we haven't gave Van Jefferson a chance because ever since he came in to the Steelers organization, we've been saying, oh, he can be the third, like the slot. Like we still need a second. I think he can prove that the doubt is wrong. Steelers Nation, all of us had doubts that we need Brandon Ayuk, we need. What's some other names we need?
Anybody, DK.
Yeah, DK. We need anybody at this point. But Van Jefferson, I believe this game against his old team will show up and show out.
It's hard for me to kind of consider this like a revenge game for Van Jefferson because he did get traded in the middle of the season last year with the Rams. I mean, I felt like he never really got solidified with the Falcons per se. But, I'm looking at Van Jefferson right now. I mean, he got drafted in 2020, so not too long ago, and he was a round 2 pick. I'm looking at it. I think he was picked only a couple picks after we picked up Chase Claypool. So you're talking about a guy that came in, with some decent pedigree. I mean, I remember watching him at Florida, thinking that he was a pretty solid player back then, and thought that he could translate into the NFL. And of course, he goes to the Los Angeles Rams, where they already had Robert Woods, and again, Robert Woods has kind of fallen off a little bit, but remember, he was a consistent 1,000-yard receiver for the Rams there for a good 4 or 5 years. They also had a young Cooper Kupp as well in the mix. So I felt like Van Jefferson kind of got lost in there. And the fact that he kind of got traded, even though he was a significant part of their Super Bowl when he played really well in that Super Bowl against the Bengals, I still see Van Jefferson as a guy, kind of like what Jawuan's saying, who, the jury's really still out. He's never had the opportunity to be the number 2 wide receiver in an offense. And with the work that he's been putting in, and I know Jawuan has been hyping up, he's been doing the AB workout after training camp practices, catching 300 balls on the jugs machine, all good stuff. I hope he's motivated, because we need a guy like this to step up, especially against the Falcons team that has a really rebooted defense. We're talking about the secondary here, but also just a couple weeks ago, they traded for Matthew Judon from the Patriots, and now you're putting him as an edge rusher, which was a huge weakness for this team. And now you have Zach Harrison on the offense, or on the defensive line for Atlanta. You have Grady Jarrett, who has been a really solid interior defensive lineman as well. So for me, I just think that this Atlanta team, a couple weeks ago, we were looking at this defense like, oh, this defense doesn't really scare us. Of course, we got to watch out for Jesse Bates in the secondary, but we've been playing against Jesse Bates for years. We know that player. But now with Justin Simmons, and can A.J. Terrell bounce back, I think that is something to really, really look out for.
They definitely filled some holes, that's for sure.
100%. But here's what I'm thinking, and again, I brought up the receivers and their secondary. I think that is going to be one of the main matchups. But if I had to solidify one matchup that I think is going to be make or break for this win or this loss for the Steelers, because again, this can go either way. I checked the line earlier today. It had moved from Falcons -3 to Falcons -3.5, and I think that might have to do with Russell Wilson's practice status, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But the key matchup for me in this game that is the number one make or break is going to be this Atlanta Falcons offensive line, which I think is borderline top 5. I mean, you're talking about guys that have played together for years, guys signed to long-term contracts, playing really well, good at run blocking, pretty good at pass blocking as well. And now instead of having, Desmond Ridder at the helm, you have Kirk Cousins, a guy that last year got hurt in week 8 and had 13 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Kirk Cousins was kind of going on a tear before he got hurt last year. And again, I know the Vikings didn't look very good, but Kirk Cousins himself looked fantastic. Coming off an Achilles, Kirk at his age, what is he going to look like? And I think this is one of the better offensive lines and group of weapons that Kirk Cousins has had. I mean, Drake London, they got Darnell Mooney. I mean, he's a speedster. I think that's a pretty solid number 2. Kyle Pitts, and also not to mention second-year running back Bijan Robinson. If our defensive line and our defensive front can't get pressure on Kirk Cousins and gets beat by this Falcons offensive line, I think it could be a long day at the office.
See, my matchup on the defensive side of the ball, I want to see that secondary, that revamped secondary, but our linebackers on Bijan and Kyle Pitts, covering Kyle Pitts is going to be a huge thing. We can't cover tight ends. We haven't been able to in recent years. So seeing that matchup, and then just Bijan against, Patrick Queen, Landon Roberts, and
Peyton Wilson.
Peyton Wilson, yeah. I mean, I think that's a key matchup. Kirk Cousins likes his tight ends too, and he's going to go to Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts is a new weapon for him. So I think he's going to really be looking for Kyle Pitts, especially against a team that has historically not been able to cover the tight end.
I think that this is a perfect game for a guy like TJ Watt. And I'm saying that because Kirk Cousins just came off an Achilles injury. And so his first matchup after coming off an Achilles injury is against TJ Watt on the outside. that is a scary sight to see if I'm Kirk Cousins. Now, like you said, if the offensive line for the Falcons play its part and be the top 5 offensive line, as you're saying, then it shouldn't be a problem. But it's still in the back of his head, you're thinking, you got one of the best defensive players, if not the best defensive player in the league, in TJ Watt, on the other side, praying to get a sack on you. So that's one matchup that I think is more, I would say more of TJ versus Kirk Cousins. I've never heard a situation like that, like a quarterback versus a line. I'm not a linebacker. Well,
Outside linebacker.
outside linebacker.
Yeah.
Not to mention we have Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig played really well in the preseason, so there's depth there as well.
And to be frank with you guys, I mean, I think this is the best defensive line that the Steelers have had in a while. I mean, last year, Keanu Benton was a rookie. Cameron Hayward was dealing with a groin injury all year long. I think Larry Ogunjobi is finally coming into a year where, he's looking like he's healthy. Again, I don't think Larry Ogunjobi has ever been healthy in his entire career for a full season. But again, the healthier the better. And we've seen Larry O have some really good games, and having him healthy is much better than not having him at all. I also really like the depth that we have. DeMarvin Leal really showed out in the preseason. I think having him, playing that 3 technique behind Cam, but also having the ability to go on the outside and be that 4th edge rusher if need be, just makes him a really versatile piece. And the fact that he's kind of putting it together going into such a crucial year into his career, I think is huge. And then getting Dean Lowry from Green Bay, I mean, another really good depth piece. Didn't get to see a lot of him in the preseason, especially in that first game. Didn't see him much, but in the last 2 preseason games, the things that I did see from him, I liked. And so you're really seeing like 6 deep defensive linemen, guys that you can trust to go in there. Isaiah Loudermilk, another guy I also felt like had a really solid preseason, somebody that really fought to make this roster. And, rookie Logan Lee is dealing with some injuries right now. We don't necessarily know what he is, but the fact that, he's such a raw prospect, and we knew how raw of a defensive lineman he was when we drafted him super late in this past year's draft. I mean, the fact that you're talking about him being your 8th or 9th defensive lineman, I mean, that's huge for this team, especially even if we deal with some injury.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that D line. You just put it out there. I mean, we have depth everywhere in the D line, and I feel like we didn't have that in previous years, especially even last year. I feel like Cam Hayward, once he went down, it showed a lot. Yeah,
the run defense wasn't the same, and even though Cam wasn't rushing the passer like he was last couple of years, you could definitely see his impact and what he was doing in the run game when he came back, even though he was dealing with some injury. And speaking of injury, a huge surprise came out today after Russell Wilson has been dealing with a strained calf that has kind of kept him out of training camp and gave Justin Fields a bunch of first-team reps to start off Latrobe. Now we're having some, calf tightness that has appeared, and he was limited in practice today. Some other names on the injury report. Trey has got the injury report pulled up. Trey, what is going on with the injury report? And let's kind of get into this Russell Wilson conversation.
I got you. All right, so did not practice, no surprise. Sam Alu, Logan Lee. But another big one that popped up is Darnell Washington didn't practice today with a knee injury.
That could be huge.
And, yeah, that's huge, especially with Arthur Smith's offense and the way he uses tight ends. But like you said, Russell Wilson was limited. Roman Wilson was limited, so that's a good sign that he's getting back to it. Probably sooner than we anticipated.
Probably not going to be a factor in this game, right. I would say, but
it's good to see him being limited and actually getting some practice.
He's definitely going to maybe get a couple snaps, but again, a good sign that at least he's in the mix.
And these are 3 huge ones. Corey Trice was full participant.
Yep.
Jalen Warren and Troy Fautanu.
I really didn't think Jalen Warren was going to play in this game, actually.
No, I didn't either. When they said hamstring, I was like, oh, we'll see Jalen week 3, week 4 maybe.
Right.
I wasn't expecting him to come back so soon. So thank the Lord that it was not as serious as it was. And we need that running back committee. Najee Harris, I don't think he can be Najee Harris without Jaylen Warren. And I don't think Jaylen Warren and his big play splash ability can be that guy without Najee Harris. I think the balance between the two is what makes them the duo that they are. So good to hear on that. But let's kind of real quick, I want to get into this whole Russ conversation and kind of intertwine it into our prediction with this game. Do you all think Russell Wilson is going to play in this game? Just, a gut feeling, because clearly, we don't know. But do you have the gut feeling that he's going to play? And if he doesn't play, does that change your mind about how this game is going to go? So, Trey, we'll start with you.
I do think he's going to play. He was limited. It's not like he went out of practice, so he was still participating in some aspect of the practice. So I think he will play. Might have just took it a little easy today. And, if he didn't play, it would definitely change my perspective on the game and how it would go, with Justin Fields leading the team. I think Justin has the talent and he could lead the team to victory, but I feel a lot more comfortable with Russell starting week 1.
I also think Russell's going to play, but the only thing that bothers me is if the calf irritates him during the game, and then he's going to have to come out the game, and then Justin Fields is going to have to come in the game. If that's the case, then just start Justin Fields. To me, either one of these quarterbacks can beat the Falcons. So it's not going to change my perspective on who I think will win.
I think it does change my perspective on who I think is going to win. I really want Justin Fields to get some more work. I don't know if preseason, again, is indicative of what's going to translate into the regular season. But what I saw in the preseason is a guy that, one, can look spectacular on one play, but put the ball on the ground or make a crucial mistake on another. And when the Steelers win the turnover battle, they win about 75% of their games in the last couple of years. When they lose the turnover battle, they haven't won a game in the last couple of years. That is how serious this is. So, again, I know Justin Fields looks really good in certain instances, and the potential is all there. But to open up this season, it needs to be the veteran Russell Wilson, in my opinion. I just feel more comfortable with him. I don't think Justin Fields is ready for it yet. I think he's well on his way. I think he's progressing from what we saw in the beginning of Latrobe to now. And for me, I just think this is such a close matchup between us and the Falcons that I would feel significantly more comfortable with Russell Wilson at the helm than Justin Fields.
No, I agree with you, Junnie. And I also think that Justin Fields will get some reps. Like, he will have a package and they will use him.
Oh, yeah. No,
I think
of
they'll
course,
use him in this game. Especially with Russ, having that calf injury or whatever. I think they will use him, especially in the red zone, running threat.
Short yardage situations.
No, I think he will get a lot of reps this year. Honestly, it all depends on the matchup, but I think he will. For sure.
I'm also in agreement with you all. I do think Russell Wilson will start this game. When he was interviewed about when he first initially got the calf injury, because I know that took a lot of people by surprise when, the opening day in Latrobe, he wasn't practicing at all. He did state that, if this was game day, I'm playing, right? It's more of a precautionary thing for him to take. So I think with him knowing where he is in his career, knowing what happened in Denver, knowing that this is really his last opportunity to be the starter, to be the guy, to lead a really good roster and go on a Super Bowl run, which again, for this team and in a stacked AFC, that's already hard enough. But I think that he sees this as his last chance and his last dance. And I think that he's going to fight tooth and nail in order to get there. Guys his age take Veterans Day all the time. Like Big Ben used to sit out. I believe it, was Wednesdays he used to sit out all the time. So maybe this could be a little Veteran Day for Russell. Maybe he's feeling better tomorrow. We will see. But again, I think it's important. So let's get into the schedule. Obviously, we just broke this game down because this game is happening here in the next couple days.
We gotta do predictions.
Yes, so we're gonna start with week 1. The game we just broke down, the Atlanta Falcons, again down there on the road in Atlanta. Trey, I'm gonna start with you. Who do you think wins and why?
I'm taking the Steelers in this one. So the reason I'm taking the Steelers is because of our defense and Kirk Cousins coming back from an injury. I think he has all the weapons, but I think our defense will, kind of contain them, Our offense is what worries me, so I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. It might be a little bit of a surprise with the Atlanta's offense because they can put up points on paper, but against our defense, I think it's going to be tough. But do you want me to give him a score prediction? Or
No, we don't need to get into
not doing a
scores.
score prediction? But yeah, I think the Steelers take this one.
Well, actually, for this one, we can do a
Yeah,
score
that's what I
prediction,
was thinking.
just because it's the week of.
All right, and for my score, I'm gonna say 20-17.
20
The Steelers.
Steelers win.
Yes, sir.
All right, Jawuan.
It's so much riding on this game. The return of Arthur Smith, the return of old Atlanta Falcons players. For me, I think that our tight ends are going to make so much of a difference in this game. I believe that Pat Firemouth will have a big game, near 100 yards. That's a bold prediction, but that's what I'm going for, near 100 yards. I think our defense will outplay their offense. So my prediction will be 23-16 Steelers.
Okay.
Pretty similar.
All right. Now for me, I've
Here you
clearly said that I think this is going to be a very close game.
Don't do it.
And by very close, I am saying that this game is going to be decided by 1 point. I think this is going to be a 1 point game. I think it's a walk-off field goal kind of game. And I'm going to give
Walking it off.
On the foot of boss.
and I'm going to give it to the Falcons.
Here we
I
go.
am predicting the Falcons to win this game, and here's why. Looking at the Falcons' schedule, down the stretch, I think that their schedule is a lot easier than it is on the front half. And if this team were to start 0-3, I don't think that there's any bouncing back from that. This is probably the most promising Atlanta Falcons team that they have had in years. And I think the hype surrounding the team, the money they've invested in the team, all the turnover, I think they're going to really, really want this game, and I think they're going to be really excited for it. After they play the Steelers, they go to the Eagles, and then they host Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I think both of those games are losses because the Eagles, I think, have reemerged as one of the better teams in the league with the offseason moves that they have made. Obviously, we just watched the Chiefs tonight. They look really, really good also. I would clearly favor them in that matchup. I just think that they're going to look at this game as this is a must-win. We really need this one with all the excitement, and I think they get it done. I am taking the Falcons on a walk-off field goal to win 24-23.
I will say something, Junnie. I feel like we know our schedule as well, and I think we know the beginning of our schedule we have to start out hot. So that's kind of why I'm leaning towards the Steelers as well. That is a good point, though. They played 3 tough teams right off the rip. We have like our easier schedule at the beginning, and then we kind of lean into the heart of our schedule towards the end. So
the reason I'm not so worried about the back end of our schedule is because it's so division loaded, and we always play our division tough, even when we are outmatched and outmanned. We've beaten the Baltimore Ravens 7 out of the last 8 years. Have we been a better team compared to the rest of the league than the Ravens the last 4 years? No, we have not. If we're being honest with ourselves, no, we have not. Lamar and the Ravens have done really, really well in the regular season. They've always been a top seed when they're healthy, and we have owned them the last 4 years. And so I just look at this back half of the schedule, and this is something that Matt Williams brought up. He works for DK Pittsburgh Sports. He pulled up a stat from Warren Sharp. In the last 8 years, in the last 8 seasons of the NFL, there are only 2 teams that have a better record against their division than the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's the Dallas Cowboys, who have the Giants and Commanders in their division, and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Steelers have won 34 out of 48 divisional games in the previous 8 seasons. We play our division well. We are at least going to get 3 to 4 division wins on the back half of the season. We also play Washington. You know, maybe we could sneak one against Philadelphia or Baltimore, Philadelphia or Kansas City. I'm sorry. With all that being said, I mean, you just never know. I mean, you get Kansas City at home on Christmas. They didn't play super hot on Christmas last year. You never know. And I think that we've been down this road before. Last year we were talking about, you know, how we had to finish the season. We were playing Joe Burrow, then we had to go to Seattle, and then we had to play Lamar Jackson. Well, guess how that ended up being? You know, Joe Burrow's hurt, Lamar Jackson sat out and didn't play, and we go to Seattle and get our first victory in what was it, 40 years? So we're looking at this from a viewpoint now, and I'm looking at this from a viewpoint of what it's going to be and what history says it's going to be.
Yeah, so much could happen.
So a lot of stuff can happen. But again, we need to move on. Let's start ripping through the schedule. We're not going to talk about all these games as much as we did this one for this weekend. Let's go at Denver.
Win.
Rusty wins.
Okay. Going home, the home opener against the Los Angeles Chargers. Win.
Yeah, win.
You're going win too, Trey?
Yes, sir.
All right. At Indianapolis.
Loss.
I'm going loss as well.
Would you think that's a Tomlin game?
I think it's a Tomlin game because I'm not high on Indianapolis at all.
I'm going win.
You're going win. So right now you have them at 4-0.
Yes, sir.
I got them at 3-1.
I have them at 2-2. At home Sunday night against Dallas.
That's
Win.
a loss.
I'm going win.
Well, Sunday night. Oh,
Sunday
man.
night,
That
Tomlin
makes it tough.
at home.
Yeah, I'm gonna win.
I don't think the Cowboys are as good. Their offensive line, they had a lot of turnover on the offensive line. They're starting 2 rookies, Tyler Guyton, Cooper Beebe. I think at home, prime time, I think we beat the Cowboys.
You not think
I'll stick it with the loss.
you don't think we get revenge from the last time we played in Pittsburgh?
Yeah. The
I'm just
Dak
gonna
and
I'll keep it with the loss.
Zeke. Beating Dak and Zeke when they're old veterans compared to last time when they beat us when they were both rookies.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty sweet. So I think we beat Dallas. At Raiders.
Win.
Loss. We got our win out west last year. I don't think we do it back to back years.
Back.
So currently I have us at 3-3. You have us at 5. Trey has 5-1. Jawuan, what are you at? 4-2. All right. Going back home Sunday night against the New York Jets.
Loss.
Another Sunday night game. We'll lose both our Sunday night games.
I have us beating the New York Jets. I don't know. I am Mr. Tomlin at night. I think he's
Sunday
money.
night, too.
Again, it's crucial because some of these big games, Cowboys, Jets, Giants isn't a big matchup, but again, it's Monday Night Football. It's the following week, but I like Tomlin at night. Tomlin always has to slip up games, but he always plays when he's the underdog. I think they get it done against the New York Jets at home. All right, following week against the New York Football Giants on Monday Night Football.
Win.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest game on the schedule. All right, going into the bye, I currently have us at 5-3.
I have
Yeah.
6-2.
6-2 for Trey.
5-3.
You have 5-3 also. Yeah. Okay. At Washington.
Win.
At home against Baltimore.
Win.
I have a win as well.
Win. At home, yeah, win.
All right. At Cleveland.
Loss.
Loss.
We
That Thursday
never
night game, right?
win on Thursday night against Cleveland.
How many Thursday night?
I don't know. I don't know how many times they're gonna do this, but we never win.
This is the third, and I think we talked about this in our schedule episode. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is our third Thursday night game in Cleveland since 2019.
It's insane.
This is getting ridiculous. I'm tired of playing in Cleveland on Thursday night, but again, yes, it's going to be a loss. Are you a loss too, Trey?
Yeah. I thought I said loss.
Sorry. All right. Following week at Bengals.
Win.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna win in Cincy.
We're gonna win in Cincy and lose in Pittsburgh.
Depends who got the division locked up.
Yeah, it all depends.
I am going to take the Bengals in this game. All right. Versus Cleveland again at home.
Win.
Win.
All right. On my birthday, December 15th, shout out to me, at Philadelphia.
Loss.
I'm going loss as well.
You know how that feels
Loss.
in Philadelphia, Junnie.
Oh yeah, we went to Philly
Well,
the last time.
no.
It was ugly.
Actually, win.
Really?
Yeah, because they're not losing. They're winning 2 out of the 3 of the 3 games out of 11 days, something like that. They're winning 2 of
Yeah,
them.
that schedule where we played 3 games.
Yeah, they're winning that game.
Okay. So me and Trey having both losing in Philly. We experienced it firsthand with Kenny Pitt. What was that the 2022 season? That Kenny,
Pickett's rookie year.
Yep, his rookie year. That was ugly. All right, at Baltimore.
Win. We sweep Baltimore.
I'm saying win as well. I think we sweep the Ravens again.
We own Lamar Jackson. Win.
So, wow, I'm actually kind of shocked we all agree on that. All right, at home on
Loss.
Christmas Day versus Kansas City. Loss.
It's a big L.
Yeah.
All right, and then to cap off the season, at home against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Loss.
We have the division locked up. We sit our starters.
Yeah,
Loss.
loss.
I'm going win. In my prediction, they will be 9-7 going into this game, and I have them winning because I actually have Cincinnati locking up the division, and I think that they will be sitting their starters in this game. So I'm kind of opposite thought of you all. So my final record prediction is going to be 10-7 again. I just think that the AFC still really, really good. Our division still really, really, really good. I think we are better, but we also, the Browns lost their starting quarterback. The Bengals lost their starting quarterback. Lamar sat out the final year, kind of helped us going in. So even though I'm predicting us to have the same record as we did last year, I just think it's more or less because it's of a tougher schedule and what this final stretch is going to look like. I just think all in all, even though we do have a better team, but I just think the circumstances of this schedule and who we play and when we play them, I think that that's kind of why we're going to have the exact same record as last year. But going into the playoffs, though, I would say I would be much more confident with this group to be competitive with just about anybody than I was last year with that
Mason
group.
Rudolph, led team. I have to agree, though. We all kind of got humbled last year, I feel like.
Very much so.
Very much so.
We got
Very
so
much
hype
so.
on the preseason. Now we're just like, preseason's preseason. But, we all have it down like a game or two, I think, from last year, from our predictions. But I do think this team is better, and they have more depth. They got a better OC. I just think this team overall is better. But, I have it 11-6 as well. I think we win the division at 11-6.
I think all in all, you just look at what this team was missing last year. Offensive line is better. Quarterback is better. Linebacking core that we've been looking for years is better. The secondary is going to be better. No more Levi Wallace. No more old Patrick Peterson. I feel like, getting Dante Jackson, we were suspect about that, but what he showed in training camp and how well he's played, that has made me feel a little bit more confident. Corey Trice stepping up and having that depth there with him and what he's been able to do gives me more confidence. And I think the only position group that we got worse in was moving off Deontay Johnson, which, again, good locker room move, good team morale move, but not good for playing on the field and needing weapons like him to be able to get open and create separation. That's the only aspect of this team that I feel like got worse. But I think with the circumstances and what they did in the offseason, that they can get over that one hurdle. And again, there's always the trade deadline. There's always going out and getting more help if this team can take advantage of the easier portion of the schedule before the bye.
11-6, and I'm here to say it. The drought ends this year.
Really?
We're winning a playoff game. We're winning
If we win
a
the
playoff
division,
game.
I think we win a playoff game.
I think the only way we win a playoff game is if we win the division. And that's just me being brutally honest. I don't see this team going on the road and winning a playoff game. I just don't.
Yeah,
if they surprise and win the division, which I don't have them doing, I think that they can win a playoff game at home. But again, that to me is a bit of a long shot. I just think the Bengals, with Joe Burrow coming back healthy, I think their team all in all has got better. I think Joe Burrow's going to have the best offensive line that he's had since being in Cincinnati by a lot. I mean, they've done a lot of work in that area, and they're playing a last place schedule after going 9-8 with him being injured and out basically for the whole year.
I didn't think about their schedule. Like that,
yeah, last place schedule for the Bengals. They're not going to have to play any of the division winners.
Yeah, because the Ravens, and the Browns are in like the top 5 toughest schedules.
Yep, and the Bengals are
Like
the only
16,
team.
they're in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, they're nowhere near as tough as schedules as us. So I think that they're going to take advantage of that and be the team to win the division this year. And I actually have the Bengals in the Super Bowl. But that's another conversation for another day.
You see that?
Again.
Y'all see that? Y'all see that?
The audience knows I'm being real. The audience knows that I'm not fake. The audience knows I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, and the audience knows I'm going to give truthful takes. But the audience has also sent us some questions that they would like us to answer going into the season. So Jawuan, the man with the questions, and we got the answers. Who is the first person that we are going to answer the questions going into the 2024 campaign?
First off, I want to say I always love when Junnie is wrong, especially about his takes, because that means it's a win for the Steelers. All right, so so we have CJ Overton, and he says, do you think our offensive line group will hit the ground running against Atlanta?
I think it's a really good question.
You want to go first or I'll go?
I think so. I think even if we do lose, I think the offensive line is going to be a bright spot. They played really well. The offensive line did the last time we played in Atlanta. I think that although they might struggle in pass protection, I think the fact that we are going to really commit to the run game, I feel like that's going to be where they shine. Maybe in pass protection, it's not going to be as good or as clean. But again, we also have Russell Wilson and Justin Fields who can kind of make do and scramble around a little bit. So I think they are going to look pretty good. And I think the running game is going to be the bright spot of the offense. And I think going forward, pass protection is going to need some improvement. But I think instead of us waiting for a run game to develop like we have the last couple of years and waiting till middle of the season, November, for them to hit the ground running, no pun intended, but I think they're gonna start the year off really, really well running the ball, and I think that's going to create some opportunities for play action, and I think overall they're going to play a pretty solid game.
Something we haven't talked about. Well, we didn't talk about what are they doing with Broderick Jones?
I have a feeling that
I think Broderick Jones starts this game.
I do too. I think they're not going to rush Falcons to start since he's been out the last couple weeks and hasn't gotten a lot of preseason reps since that first game against Houston. I think that they play it safe with him, and maybe it's a confidence thing. Maybe it's we don't want to throw you out there first game of your NFL career banged up, and we want to make sure you're 100%. I think it's a little combination of all that, but I think Broderick gets the start.
But my thing is Dan Moore showing that much improvement from last year?
He's consistent. I feel like he's consistently decent enough. Like Broderick shows flashes here and there, and then he gets beat pretty badly sometimes.
That's because they keep on switching them.
Well, I get that, but I'm saying Dan Moore's been consistent on that left side, and he's started for us in the last 2-3 years. Like they're just not going to move off him.
This would be his. I believe this is his 4th year starting. He got drafted because he got drafted for Big Ben's last year. He was the left tackle in 21, 22, and 23. So this will be his 4th year as the starter. Here's what I think genuinely happened with that situation. Since we're kind of getting into that, I think the Steelers didn't want to move Broderick Jones over to the left side until Troy Fautanu earned the right to start at right tackle. And I think once, he did that is when, the situation got a little bit complicated because I think that he kind of caught on a little bit quicker than what they were expecting. And I just think that the whole flipping Broderick back and forth has just kind of messed up his groove. And with the whole injury, I think that early on in preseason, before Fautanu got hurt, I think they were already starting to put Broderick on the left side. And when Faltanu went down, it's like, oh, we got to throw you back on the right side. And then that first game when he went back to the right side, when they played the Buffalo Bills, is when he struggled against Greg Rousseau. So I kind of think that that's the story of what happened. I think the injury of Faltanu really shuffled the Steelers' plans up, and it just threw a wrench into things, and I think that's why things are messed up. What ultimately is likely to happen is Dan Moore will struggle in the regular season. They'll throw Broderick out there. Faltanu will get healthy and take over that role at right tackle, and then by the end of the year, hopefully we're looking at this offensive line like, wow, they're going to be really good for years to come. That's what I'm hoping.
All right. Next question is from Mark Burnside. He's saying, how many touches does Patterson get?
I think he gets, with Jalen Warren getting back from an injury, I think he gets a lot more touches than we think.
Do kickoff returns count?
Let's say carries.
Look, I have a bold prediction that to start the 2024 year,
He might play receiver too.
I feel like he's only take one back to the crib.
Well, today they were all kicking it for touchbacks, I think. Was there any returns?
There were some returns. I felt like the Chiefs were kicking touchbacks. The Ravens were not. So I think it's a strategy thing. For me, over under 5, I would.
Patterson?
I think he gets under 5 carries. You know what? No. I take that back. Jalen's banged up. I think he gets right around 5 or 6 carries. I don't think Jalen's going to get the full workload. If I had to guess, Najee gets about 15, Jalen gets about 10, Patterson gets about 5. I think that's ultimately how it breaks down.
I think Patterson could play more of that third down back role with Jalen being banged up as well. So I think, yeah, you said over under 5. I think it goes over and touches, not carries, but touches.
Yeah, I think with, like how y'all said, with Jalen Warren just coming back off injury, like how we seen tonight with Mark Andrews and Likely played more.
He played out of his
mind. He balled out.
Yeah,
he balled out, right?
receiver.
So it's like it's the same situation where Warren is coming back from injury, and Patterson, being the vet that he is, will take most of the snaps more than Warren. We have one more comment from my guy Malcolm. He says he's from Atlanta. He calls Atlanta Pittsburgh, Georgia. But he says that he sees the Steelers' record being 12-5.
It's one more game than what we had.
Yeah, that's one more game than what we had. So.
I really do. And what's his name one more time?
Malcolm.
I think that's very wishful thinking, Malcolm. I wish that I could get on board with that, but knowing that there's going to be a Tomlin game, knowing that they're not going to win all 6 divisional games, and knowing that you play at Philadelphia versus Kansas City, I just think there's too many tough games for there to only be 5 losses. Again, that is if Russell, like they're going 12-5 if Russell Wilson turns the clock back and starts playing like 2018, 2019, 2020 Russell Wilson, where he's throwing like 30 to 40 touchdowns and under 10 interceptions. Like that would have to be the case. And I don't think that he's going to be able to play like that, knowing that, again, we like Van Jefferson. We're hoping he can turn up and play really well, but we don't have the weapons that he had back in the day back then, and he's not the same player.
Before we wrap up, let me pose a question. So, best case scenario, say Russ turns back the clock, our defense plays lights out, the run game gets going. What is our best record that you see us having with the schedule?
12-5.
I would say
say everything goes perfectly.
And again, if everything does go perfectly, 12 it would be between 11-6 and 12-5. I'll say 12-5 just because if it's perfect, if it's perfect, it's 12-5. The defense is the best in the league. The offensive line becomes a top 5 unit in the league. George Pickens becomes a top 10 receiver. Pat Freiermuth easily is a top 10 tight end. and then Russell Wilson has his best year in 5 years. That's a lot of what ifs. I don't see that happening at all. Again, I'm saying this from the perspective that I would love this to happen. I would do anything for this to happen, to have that kind of season, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Malcolm, keep thinking that way. Keep staying positive, and I hope the best for that prediction.
We weren't
I really
far off. Me and Jawuan weren't far off.
Yeah,
11
we
and
said
6.
11-6.
Sneaker win in there, 12-5. We'll see. Is that all we got?
Yeah, that's all we got. That's all we got.
But all in all, fellas, I think this is going to be a really exciting season. I think there's a lot to look forward to. Even if this season doesn't turn out the way that we want it to, I really like the direction that the Steelers are going. They have built a foundation around this roster. The young offensive core is going to be up and coming. The defense looks like it could be borderline top 10, and we are not committed to a quarterback long term. So whether one of these guys breaks out, we sign them long term, or whether or not, they crap the bed and we're drafting a quarterback or trying to find somebody new to come in and fill the spot of this really good completed roster, I think it's either a win-win for the Steelers, and it should be something that we enjoy and embrace for this ride, because I finally feel like they are moving in the right direction for the future. So either way, whether they go 12-5, whether they have the good old 9-8, above 500 year, and they're one and done in the playoffs or barely miss the playoffs, this is going to be a fun year. It's going to be an exciting year. It's not going to be a dull Matt Canada offense. And finally, we have something to look forward to.
Also, this is our first YouTube.
This is our first video. Shout out to Jawuan for getting the camera out. We finally put it together. I built a studio in my upstairs, looking pretty good. He got the flag going back here in the background. All is well. We are going to continue to upload video content. We're going to start breaking down some TikTok, some Instagram shorts, trying to get out to Steeler Nation any which way that we can. So like, subscribe, share, join us on a weekly basis as we go through this awesome season, and we will see you week in and week out as the Pittsburgh Steelers shoot for their 7th Lombardi. Did anybody got anything else?
Peace. Let's go Steelers. You guys will be in Atlanta, though, so
Yeah.
we'll see it.
Absolutely. For Stealing with the Boys podcast, we are out.
Here we go.
Here we go.